Dr. Elijah Carter, 39, left his secure residence in the upscale neighborhood of Georgetown, a historic neighborhood in Washington, D.C., known for its old brick homes, tree-lined cobblestone streets, elegant boutiques, and quiet embassies. He lived in a discreet but luxurious building, protected by private security.
Not out of vanity.
As a precaution. That morning, the sky was a calm blue, crossed by a few streaks of clouds. The air was fresh, almost spring-like. Elijah, true to himself, was of sober elegance. He wore a suit custom anthracite gray, made by an African-American tailor from Chicago whom he had supported for years. An immaculate white shirt, a midnight blue tie, Italian shoes polished to perfection, thin rectangular glasses, carefully trimmed beard. Nothing was ostentatious. Everything was affirmed. He didn't wear any jewelry.
No signo flascivealt.
He didn't need it. His name circulated in the corridors of the White House, in the lecture halls of Harvard, and in the think tanks of the largest NGOs. He was professor of constitutional law at Harvard, prison policy specialist, author of 2 acclaimed works on justice reform, and member of the President's Council on Racial Equity, created 2 years earlier. That morning, he was not going to a conference. He was going to meet the Vice President of the United States, in person. The subject, the abuse of police controls against minorities, a subject he knew to the core. This meeting could change the direction of federal reform. He knew every word counted. He got behind the wheel of his SUV Cadillac Escalade 2025, a luxury vehicle, shiny black, armored and discreet at the same time, made available by the Department of Justice for his official trips. Inside, tinted windows, black leather, reinforced security system. He wasn't proud of it. He found it almost excessive. But we insisted, Mr. Carter, during these times, your safety is our priority. He planned his route to Capitol Hill, about 15 minutes drive. He drove calmly, respecting the speed limits. He knew the terrain too well. In certain neighborhoods, the simple fact of being a black man driving a high-end vehicle was enough to attract glances, even flashing lights. And in fact, he was approaching Anacostia, a historically black neighborhood, in full gentrification, still marked by racial tensions, poverty, and a chronic over-policing. That morning, in their company car, Officer Branson, a 52-year-old veteran, white, stocky, jaded-looking, and Officer Mitchell, 32 years old, younger, more nervous, patrolled without conviction. They had just received a banal alert via their radio. Report of a black male in a black SUV driving slowly on Elmwood Street, possibly being stalked.
No violence, no weapons. Enough transmission. Branson growled.
Always the same stories. A guy hanging around and it's a general alert. But he still took a look at the onboard screen. When they saw the black Escalade turning in their direction, he smiled coldly. Look at that, Mitchell.
Too much bling for not no reason.
And in this area.
Let me guess. No local registration.
You really want to do this?
Maybe it's nothing. Gotta check it out.
It's our job, right?
Make yourself useful, kid.
He lit the red and blue flashing lights. Elijah, surprised but not panicked, took a quick glance in the rearview mirror. He parked calmly on the shoulder, level with a sunny sidewalk. He shut off the engine, immediately lowered the front windows, and placed both clearly visible hands on the steering wheel, in a posture he knew by heart, survival posture. When the 2 police officers approached, Branson immediately came out in a harsh, authoritarian voice.
Get out of the vehicle. Stand against the car.
Elijah frowned slightly, without aggression. Officers, is everything okay? I'm in a hurry. I have a meeting at the Capitol. Mitchell seemed to hesitate, but Branson got angry. I said get down.
Hands on the oath.
Can I at least show you my government badge?
I'm. Hands on the vehicle.
Now. In less than 5 seconds, Elijah was pulled from his vehicle, pressed against the hood, handcuffed, brutally searched.
No words. No verification.
Branson, in a low voice, said, We'll see if you're in such a hurry, buddy. They forced him to kneel on the sidewalk, under the stunned gaze of a few passers-by. An elderly woman stopped, shocked. A teenager, Kenny James, 16, took out his smartphone and started filming. Yo, that's not normal.
Demando entedo anitin.
Why are they dumping him? Meanwhile, in the East Wing of the White House, the vice president's agenda was ticked down to the second. 10 minutes after the scheduled meeting time, his press secretary, Jessica Raines, frowned. Elijah Carter was never late. Never. She tried to call him. Once. Twice. No signal. A feeling of alert set in. She immediately called Dr. Carter's personal assistant, who confirmed that he had indeed left an hour ago, in the armored SUV provided by the Department of Justice. Faced with the emergency, they activated the vehicle's secure GPS, a protocol reserved for high-ranking members in the event of a threat or incident. The map was displayed. The vehicle had been parked for 17 minutes at an intersection on Good Hope Road SE, in the Anacostia neighborhood. But one detail immediately attracted attention. The signal was framed by a flashing red alert, under police guard. Within 5 minutes, a Secret Service agent, Marcus Hill, was dispatched to the scene. He knew Elijah personally. As he approached the scene, his gaze hardened. He saw the professor still handcuffed, knees on the ground, palms turned to the sky as if he had been caught in the act. 2 white police officers were still searching the interior of the vehicle, ignoring the looks of passers-by, among whom a young man was discreetly filming with his smartphone. Hill got out of his unmarked car, flashed his federal badge and walked straight toward the officers. Release this man immediately. He is a senior advisor to the President's Council on Racial Equity. You have just committed an illegal arrest of a high-ranking federal official. The words slammed like slaps. Branson turned pale. Mitchell dropped the flashlight he was holding. They froze. It's a misunderstanding. We received a call about suspicious activity, Mitchell stammered, his voice trembling. But Elijah said nothing. Not a word. He stood up slowly, rubbed his wrists marked by the handcuffs, carefully put his jacket back on, then his glasses. His gaze met that of the teenager who was filming. They exchanged a silent nod. Then he followed the Secret Service agent to the federal car, without looking back. That same evening, the video shot by the young witness was posted online. In less than 2 hours, it exploded on TikTok, then on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter. It showed a calm, dignified, respectful man, treated like a criminal under the pretext that he was driving a luxury car in a working-class neighborhood, while he was on his way to participate in a reform supposed to prevent precisely this type of abuse. The hashtag Elijah Carter went viral. In less than 12 hours, it reached 1 million mentions. Comments poured in from all sides: politicians, artists, activists, anonymous citizens. Michelle Obama published a story. When a black intellectual professor at Harvard still has to show his hands to survive a police check, we have failed. LeBron James wrote, "This is what we are fighting for. This is why we won't give up."
Justice for Alilaiches.
Ava DuVernay shared the video by tweeting, "This is not an isolated incident. It's a mirror." But it was the President of the United States himself who put an exclamation point on this dramatic day. If Dr. Elijah Carter can be publicly humiliated while advising my administration, imagine what those no one knows are going through. This nation still has a long way to go. The Department of Justice announced the next morning the immediate suspension of the 2 police officers. A federal investigation was opened into discriminatory practices in their district. As for Elijah Carter, he went back to work as if nothing had happened, but something had changed. He was no longer simply an intellectual or an advisor. He had become a symbol, a truth that America could no longer ignore. Would you like me to expand on the media and political impact, or the personal impact on Elijah Carter? A few days later, Elijah agreed to speak at a White House summit titled Reimagining Racial Justice. In front of a packed room, he stood up, imposing in his calm, and declared, "I was arrested not because I was dangerous, But because, in the minds of two men, my color and my car could not coexist. I am a doctor of law, a professor at Harvard, a government advisor. But that day, no diploma, no position protected me from the presumption of being a threat. I am not speaking for myself today. I speak for black children who only have their empty pockets and their skin as passports, and who are still searched. I speak for those who are locked up, who are violent, who are erased. Because no one is filming. If this country wants to grow, it must first learn to no longer be afraid of black dignity. A sacred silence followed. Then an ovation. And a change this time seemed to have begun for good. The police officers responsible were dismissed. A law, inspired by the Elijah Carter affair, was passed 6 months later, imposing mandatory anti-racist training in all police academies and the installation of biometric sensors in vehicles to prevent abuse. But Elijah did not seek revenge. He continued his work, even more determined, carrying the voice of the invisible to the highest places of power. And on the streets of D.C., the name Carter became a symbol for many, that of a black man humiliated, but standing up, respected not despite its color, but with she.